going on, guys? This is something new that we're trying, right? This is me, Adi Shankar.
I'm Kenlon Clark. I'm the writer and director.
So now we're going to be doing a producer-director commentary on a fan film, which is something new. Well, it's new for me,
Yeah,
right?
definitely new for me too.
Because usually I just kind of bury my head in the sand, wondering how many bridges I've burned after doing one of these. I want to say something about this piece as a whole. I feel like you got what I've been trying to do with the bootleg universe more than even I got, and I really just appreciate that. Like, it was about using these brands to say something.
I would say that came as a result of what you've created with the bootleg universe in allowing these type of ideas to be explored. And it was that combination of doing something that's kind of wild and crazy and fun and riffing on an idea, but also having something to say with it. And that was, to me, the interesting challenge of combining those two concepts of trying to say something meaningful, but doing it in a way that had an aesthetic that people today would be hopefully into. So
The beauty of all this is you literally made a war film on a shoestring budget. You know what? For the benefit of everyone who's listening right now, why don't you reveal the budget? I want soup to nuts. Like, I'm talking everything.
So basically, the budget was about $14,000 to do the whole thing.
$14,000. That is, it's not an insignificant amount of money. However, relative to costs of making shit with film, that's the catering budget for a day for most movies.
Yeah. I had to really just employ every skill set that I've picked up along the way. Originally, I was like, okay, I'm gonna need about 5 days to shoot this because the script was about 15 pages. And then it just wound up being like, I have 2 days to shoot this whole thing. I split it up mentally into two scenarios. One was all the war stuff, and then the other was everything else. The camera crew consisted of just me and my gaffer. The VFX I did on a MacBook Pro laptop in Adobe Creative Suite.
What a lot of directors should be doing, in fact, what I think every director should be doing now, is doing that storyboard process the way you did it.
Storyboards are so essential to, I mean, honestly, even the writing process. So one of the things I did is I sat down and I storyboarded the whole thing and then added voices and music and basically did a previs.
It was literally like, I mean, if you go back to the James Bond bootleg, it very much felt like the James Bond bootleg. And it was just great to have that so that we could pick it apart and go through each element of the story and fine tune it. But also, I feel like the storyboard process really allows happy accidents to happen.
Yeah.
Because the thing that freaks like business people out is they want everything kind of figured out before you walk in. And they're like, what is the movie? What are you making? What is the story you're trying to tell? Who's in it? They want everything figured out. And what really freaks them out is this idea that genius happens in the moment. Can't really plan for it. There's a difference between winging it and being prepared for the opportunity so that you get those happy accidents.
Nice to finally meet a man that doesn't hit like a little bitch.
By the way, that whole last chunk just goes to show what is possible with VFX and just those little augmentations in the background. I mean, it really sells the idea that he's in this military training ground, not just some random park.
Absolutely. I remember when I was working on the cut and I showed you some of the early cuts, and then you basically encouraged me to push it even further in terms of the visual aesthetic, and it really elevated the entire piece. So same with this sequence with the Huey, we just did it kind of on the spot and then getting really cool footage to mix in with it, and my gaffer off camera flickering the light, and I added the camera shake and post-production and just all those things that hopefully sell it.
Just remember your training. If you lose your focus, use your imagination. Make believe you can do it if you have to.
Okay, thank you. I needed that.
What's your name?
Samuel Tuesday.
Tuesday and Friday. What are my chances?
It really sold. And there's been a lot of talk, and there continues to be a lot of talk, and about the democratization of the film industry. This is just another great example of how the tools of the trade, they're now available to everybody. Film is no longer this weapon controlled by an oligarchy, and all the resources on how to make it, how to manipulate it, how to just do the whole thing, they're all available online.
It's crazy because really the only thing that stands in between it for you is just you wanting to kind of sit down and do the work. I know some people feel as though they're going to be losing a certain level of spontaneity in the storytelling when they're storyboarding, but the thing is you'll never remove spontaneity from a film shoot. You want to be able to just go in as prepared as possible. I know that there's a little bit of a notion, that storyboards are for cowards, but I just honestly can't disagree with that more.
The theory behind that school of thought, genius happens in the moment,
right.
And I want to discover my story while I'm making it, not be a craftsman and execute. I think that's like literally the wrong thing to say to young filmmakers. That's okay once you're making like your 5th or 6th film.
Yeah, exactly.
There's things that you intuitively understand now that, and maybe then you can scrap the storyboard. And I think a lot of these pearls of wisdom that come from established filmmakers get taken out of context. Like there's this perception with like David Fincher, for instance, where he won't compromise. It's his vision, that whole vibe. I think young people hear that and it's just dangerous. It's a collaborative art form.
Yeah, absolutely.
First and foremost. The auteur theory is just nonsense.
Yeah.
It's a mosaic that's an amalgamation of the work of a lot of different people.
You gotta go back, Go back, hit that smoke again. Go! Good, so funny. Good. Good, yeah. Two, down. Yeah, good. Good. You guys
Oh, sorry.
that was awesome.
Forgot all our training.
That was awesome.
Really, your only focus should be what's through that camera lens. That's the only thing you're really.
Oh, that used to drive me insane. I mean, being on studio movies where it's two people in a coffee shop having a conversation, and then you look around and there's like a ton of extras and there's a ton of production design, and you're like, you don't need any of that. You literally need 5 people right now. I don't understand why. Again, I don't want to take jobs away from people.
Right.
It's just they're these standard practices sometimes. Maybe these should be rethought. Maybe this is not the most efficient way to go about it, which you have proved.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate you talking about the storyboard process.
You know, it's not too dissimilar from the process by which the Pixar movies are made. You know, they're not figuring it out in post, quote unquote. They're figuring it out in pre-production. Then they're figuring it out again and again and again. And that's why when you look at these Pixar movies, they are on a different league than almost every single live action movie that comes out. They literally spend years in pre-production, and it kind of flips the process. Without the storyboard process, this would have been a week.
Oh, yeah, totally.
It would have been a weekend plus reshoots.
When's the extraction operation commencing, sir?
Extraction.
Let's talk about your lead actor. Chris is phenomenal.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, this entire piece rests on his ability to be believable in this role. Because ultimately, you're telling a tall tale, right? So there's this weird tonal balance that your lead actor needed of it not being too campy, not being too gritty, being funny in the right moments, but really being earnest, that he was really able to capture in every single frame of this. How did you find him?
So I've directed a number of music videos for a group called Above and Beyond. He came in and I just remember thinking, wow, this guy takes direction really, really well. When you essentially you're gonna direct it and we'll make this thing, the first thing I thought of is who's gonna play Mr. Rogers, because it rested on somebody who could be believable, because we're dealing with this American icon that people are so familiar with. And the first person I thought of was Chris, and I looked him up on Facebook, showing my wife, I'm like, what about Chris Cusano? He'd be great. So then the next day I had a meeting, and I was on La Brea, and I was standing outside this restaurant, and I look over, and Chris comes walking out.
That's amazing.
And so I just went over and I was like, dude, I think I got something. He's the only person I looked at. He's the only person who auditioned for it. But it was also somebody who could be physical, and that was a tricky part. Is like, who could also handle the physicality of these action sequences?
Right. He doesn't seem angry when he's in the action scene.
Right.
That's the key, right? He's playing it almost like, I learned this skill, I'm executing the skill. That's it.
Within the bootleg universe, Mr. Rogers is a guy who feels that this is his way of making a difference. He's a great warrior, he's a great fighter, and he's essentially doing what he feels is his duty before finding what his true purpose is.
Like, let's talk about the rain real quick.
Oh yeah.
Because, rain just adds so much to any scene.
Oh, totally.
It's also adding complications to production. You had no money to pull this off.
Yeah.
The whole short. You literally did this with nickels and dimes cobbled together.
There's always certain things that you kind of have to give and take a little bit on, but you're kind of finding what's the avenue that this can actually happen and you can still achieve your vision. But the rain was something that I saw from the beginning and was the thing that I would just not compromise on no matter what. This is gonna sound crazy. Probably almost a third of our budget went to just having the rain tower there. And then everything else was kind of moved around. I originally wanted to shoot this in sequence at night, and I was willing to kind of back away from that because shooting at night, obviously, and in the rain would be very, very difficult. Magic Hour is really kind of a cool visual, but it's got to be rainy.
I feel like having it in the daytime kind of added to it.
Yeah, there's something really interesting to me about rain in a sunset. Like I think about, this is a weird example, the Crimea River video that Francis Lawrence did for Justin Timberlake. That image has always been really powerful, raining when it's sunny, which is in a weird way, again, is kind of almost a little bit metaphorical. We just had to move as quickly as possible and and we managed to, get it. So what you really need to do is go, look, I've got $14,000. Let me think about what exactly is needed. I was like, how am I going to shoot Vietnam? I was thinking about it one day, and I was like, well, I've played paintball at different parks. And a lot of them, they recreate Vietnam and Cambodia. Just basically went around with the producers at Green Glow, Steven in Brooklyn, and we asked around. There's one awesome park up in Moore Park that they gave us a really great deal. I've had a lot of opportunity to direct on, bigger budgeted commercial work and music videos. But what you really need to do is just reverse engineer the whole process and really just think about what you're trying to get very clearly and kind of work backwards from that and really just narrow down exactly what you need to pull off this sequence. And just that's what just really allows you to kind of move forward, is just, stripping away any excess and really just getting down to, the nuts and bolts of what exactly is required to get these shots. You'd be surprised just doing that. Like, you can pull off a action scene in the rain.
Partner, you're our ally, you're our friend.
This sequence right here is phenomenal. How you're cross-cutting between the puppets. It's this, like, you were able to blend this emotionally charged, sad moment with humor, and it wasn't depressing, it wasn't funny, and it was weirdly uplifting. Like, that tone is so hard to achieve. I mean, it could have gone so wrong so many ways, and you just pulled it off. Yeah, this is so awesome. It's just so awesome. What I appreciate about it, kind of on an artistic level, just kind of removing my involvement from it, just kind of looking at it on a macro level. It's an interesting way to introduce or reintroduce our cultural heroes to a young generation.
You're staying true to who this person was, but you're embracing kind of the cultural myths around them and integrating that into kind of the bigger picture of who they are.
Absolutely.
Being a fellow soldier.
What's interesting about a lot of these bootleg universe concepts, like when it's even the ones that haven't gotten made, the general reaction when I'm like kind of explaining it to someone is laughter. It's never like, oh wow, it's more like laughter, because they're always like really funny, ridiculous concept that could have very well become like a Will Ferrell movie. But then it's like, no, you commit to it, you commit to the concept, you commit to the underlying idea here, whether it's, well, the Power Rangers are actually child soldiers, James Bond is actually like a serial killer with a government license to serial kill, or the fact that we have this like American hero that embodies all of the values that are the backbone of the American dream.
Totally.
And he was like right there, and we grew up with this guy. I dug how selfless he was, just how selfless this guy was. This guy was just so committed to doing the right thing. He had this moral compass that was unwavering. It wasn't like some lobby group could come and be like, hey, Mr. Rogers, let's sell, can we add cigarettes to your show? To get, like he wasn't about that. Another thing I really appreciate about the way you pulled this off is it's a lot more fun than a blockbuster. It's just a lot more fun. It's just a lot more sincere. There's an emotional sincerity to this.
Again, become neighbors.
This is a story about a guy that was a very influential figure in both of our lives, and this is a love letter to him, and it comes through. There's no cynicism here. This was just made for the sake of the art and for the sake of the message, and again, as a love letter to Mr. Rogers, and that really comes through. It really comes through in every frame.
Be my neighbor.
It's great to have you be part of the bootleg universe. You join Joseph Kahn, Phil Joannou, a bunch of other very talented people in this thing.
It's been an amazing experience, and definitely your perspective and vision and just ideas and your encouragement are really what I think really helped take everything to the next level. So very grateful to work on this. Little dedication to my mom, I appreciate that. She was a teacher for 47 years.
Yeah, you lost her recently.
Yeah, in August, about a month actually after we shot this. So she saw the previs and she loved that. She was able to see that. And she was like a mentor and kind of a my biggest supporter. I'm glad that I got this great opportunity, and she was able to see a lot of it, and it means a lot. It's been one of the greatest projects I've ever been able to work on, so it's awesome, man.
Dope, man. Creating.
Yeah.
Just creating. You
Yeah.
created something dope.